Olá, boa tarde. Hello, good afternoon to you all. Very welcome for this exchange, this webinar, this conversation, this work meeting. This is an initiative from Alimenta CPLP, which is a platform that was created as a quick answer to the urgent need of a space of sharing information and collaboration that is underlined by family farmers, confederations, and hundreds of civil society organizations from the community of Portuguese-speaking countries. Since its creation, it has been adding more and more organizations, and we've been organizing some of these exchanges in order to understand what is happening, exchange information that can be helpful for us in order to mitigate and to have a quick intervention on the food and health crisis that is a result of the pandemic situation we are all living. I would like to share very quickly that yesterday, this is an initiative that is promoted by Actuar, has the Secretariat of the Civil Society Mechanism of the Food Security Council of CPLP countries. And I just wanted to add this quick note that yesterday we had a meeting, the mechanism, and we shared some of situations that are happening, and our sense is a very big sense of urgency to really act. So for all of us, this is a very important work, and you are all invited to keep doing this work together with us. So the aim of this platform is to strengthen the access to information and also to strengthen relationships, collaborations, in order to promote sustainable food systems in the CPLP countries. And so these knowledge exchanges are being promoted and facilitated in order to build multi-stakeholders cooperation initiatives. Some webinars have already taken place within the platform. This is the sixth, and they involved already governments, members of the academia, and also of civil society and farmers organizations from all the 9 countries of CPLP. There was one already done with FAO, also as a development partner, and Rural Women was one of the teams, and this week, this Tuesday, there was another webinar where we had some of the speakers that are with us today, and some of the participants also, and it involved a lot of partners like ICA from Brazil, FIDA from Brazil, Instituto Camões from Portugal, IFOAM, European Union. So we really are trying to make a space so we can quickly work together and implement very, very practical and important actions to mitigate this crisis that we are all living. In these discussions, some major areas common to all countries have emerged: sustainable territorial food systems and healthy diets, food sovereignty or self-sufficiency, depends, supply and access to institutional markets, and strengthening family farming and rural women. These are three of the main themes that seem to be, they are very wide, but they really congregate what the different countries appoint to be important areas to work on in order to promote sustainable food systems. And so these are possible areas that can gather us as partners in partnerships to work together. So today, like on the other exchanges, we will have guests that will bring us information about what is going on, what's the main challenges, and also what they consider to be strategic partnerships in this context. So we have today with us from Portugal, we were expecting to have Mrs. Isabel Palma, recently appointed Portugal's IFAD governor, but she yesterday, unfortunately, for unexpected reasons, told us she couldn't be with us for agenda reasons. But we will have with us António Cerca Miguel from the Agriculture Ministry in Portugal that works closely with Isabel Palma from the IFAD governor, Portugal's IFAD governor. And so we are very happy to have you with us, António. We will also have Sabel Andur from IFAD Partnership Officer for Portugal. Gianluca Capaldo from IFAD Country Director for Cape Verde, Guinea and Guinea-Bissau. Also Leonardo Bichara Rocha from IFAD Country Program Officer for Brazil. We will also have Custódio Mucavele from IFAD Country Program Officer for Mozambique, and Marcelin Norvilus, I think I'm pronouncing correctly, from IFAD Program Officer for São Tomé and Principe. So we will have today this exchange dedicated to this development partner, IFAD, and with no more time, I will pass the word to António Cerca Miguel. You will have, António, 5 minutes, as we have agreed previously, to give us some introductory words on actions taken in Portugal to mitigate the impacts of COVID-19 and some reflections on cooperation actions among the Portuguese-speaking countries. António, 5 minutes.
Obrigado. Je vais parler en français parce que c'est plus facile pour moi. J'espère que tous puissent comprendre. Tout d'abord, j'aimerais remercier l'invitation pour participer à cet webinaire et féliciter l'organisation par le thème, c'était très pertinent, sur le Covid-19. Dans l'impossibilité de parler en portugais, je vais parler en français, oui. Malheureusement, parce que je pense qu'un événement sur CPLP devrait être parlé en portugais, mais enfin, on s'adapte. Malheureusement, la gouverneure portugaise du FIDA, Isabel Palma, ne pourra pas participer pour des raisons prévues déjà évoquées, et je la remplacerai, j'essaierai de la remplacer. La situation d'urgence créée par les mesures de lutte contre le Covid-19 a introduit des changements et des perturbations majeures dans le système alimentaire, dans la façon dont ils étaient structurés. Ces perturbations ont été ressenties du côté de la demande et du côté de l'offre, induisant une modification du fonctionnement des systèmes alimentaires et des circuits de distribution alimentaire. Du côté des consommateurs, le confinement a entraîné une baisse d'activité économique avec une augmentation du chômage et une baisse des revenus des ménages, qui ont ainsi vu leur pouvoir d'achat diminuer. D'autre part, la difficulté de contact physique et de mobilité imposée par la pandémie, dont on met en évidence la fermeture des hôtels, des restaurants et des cantines, et les conditionnements de l'accès aux entreprises de commerce alimentaire a influencé une modification des régimes et des habitudes alimentaires, entraînant également une diminution de la demande. D'autre part, elle a forcé une restructuration des circuits commerciaux bénéficiant du contact direct, le contact direct du consommateur avec le producteur et le commerce en ligne. Du côté de la production, la baisse de la demande, qui s'est ressentie de manière asymétrique, à déterminer l'accumulation de stocks d'aliments. Des difficultés sont également survenues en termes de main-d'œuvre, non seulement en raison des problèmes causés par l'infection par le virus, mais aussi des difficultés de mobilité, difficultés d'accès à la main-d'œuvre immigrée, qui constitue une bonne partie de la main-d'œuvre dans le secteur agraire et agroalimentaire portugais. Ça, on entend bien ce que je dis, on comprend bien. Oui, ok. L'interruption de la circulation entre les pays a également affecté le commerce international, tant en termes d'importation qu'en termes d'exportation. Les secteurs les plus touchés par la pandémie ont été les produits laitiers, surtout les fromages, le vin, la viande, porc et volaille, et les fleurs. Dans les secteurs qui contribuent plus pour les exportations portugaises, on voit les vins, l'huile d'olive, les fruits et légumes, en particulier les petits fruits, et les fleurs, avec une baisse significative des exportations qui sont attendues pour cette année 2020. Les principales mesures pour atténuer les effets de la pandémie ont été prises par le gouvernement. Au niveau transversal, le gouvernement portugais a promu un ensemble de mesures publiques transversales visant à garantir la capacité de survie des entreprises. Au sein de ce lot, nous trouvons des mesures destinées à sauvegarder la liquidité des entreprises, ligne de crédit, renforcement du crédit à l'exportation, report des respects des obligations financières et des reports de paiement de loyer. Dans le domaine fiscal, des mesures ont été mises en œuvre pour assouplir les conditions de paiement des impôts et le report du paiement des cotisations sociales. Dans les mesures de soutien à l'emploi, un régime simplifié de layout a été créé dans lequel il a été garanti 2/3 de la rémunération des travailleurs, un plan de formation professionnelle extraordinaire, un régime exceptionnel de soutien familial pour ceux qui doivent rester avec ses enfants. Un accompagnement exceptionnel pour les travailleurs indépendants et associés de gestion ont été mis en œuvre aussi. La situation de difficulté d'approvisionnement indiquée et la nécessité de la résoudre ont motivé à créer par le ministère de l'Agriculture une mesure qui puisse aider les producteurs agricoles et qui puisse favoriser la consommation de produits locaux à travers l'utilisation des marchés locaux et l'établissement d'une relation plus directe entre les producteurs et les consommateurs. À cette fin, la campagne « Nourrissez celui qui vous nourrit » a été créée. Le ministère de l'Agriculture a lancé cette plateforme à partir de laquelle tout producteur, de manière simple et rapide, peut s'inscrire afin de faire connaître ses produits disponibles à la commande et livraison. Tout consommateur avec confort et sécurité pourra chercher par département et par produit, bio ou non, et ainsi identifier les producteurs de sa région et commander ses produits. La campagne a déjà attiré plus de 120 producteurs. On s'attend à ce que dans la période post-Covid, il soit en mesure de laisser un laisse de plus grande approximation entre les producteurs et les consommateurs. Une autre mesure créée dans la région viticole du Douro a été celle d'encourager la production de solutions antiseptiques à base d'alcool, gel alcoolique, pour les centres, pour approvisionner les centres hospitaliers de la région nord, contribuant ainsi à faire face à la diminution de la consommation du vin qui a été produite entre-temps. Finalement, un certain nombre de mesures ont été développées par le gouvernement et l'Union européenne pour alléger et simplifier les procédures administratives liées à l'application de la politique agricole commune. La communauté des pays de langue portugaise, à travers sa stratégie de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle, a lancé un processus de coopération entre ses membres visant à améliorer les conditions de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle dans le monde lusophone. Cette coopération a donné des résultats très positifs dans lesquels nous soulignons l'adoption des lignes directrices de la CPLP pour l'agriculture familiale, un engagement renforcé par la signature de la Charte de Lisbonne sur l'agriculture familiale en 2018, dont le FIDA a été également signataire. Une autre initiative importante dans ce domaine a été l'engagement de créer un conseil de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle dans chaque État membre de la CPLP. Le Portugal, en 2018, a créé son statut d'agriculture familiale et qui est déjà en vigueur. Il a créé un conseil de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle qui s'est déjà réuni 2 fois. Une des tâches du Conseil portugais de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle est l'élaboration d'une stratégie de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle pour le Portugal, dont le premier projet a déjà été élaboré et qui devra être soumis au Conseil lors de la prochaine réunion qui se tiendra très prochainement. L'excellent appui de la FAO, à travers son bureau à Lisbonne, a donné une aide et a aidé à atteindre les résultats de la stratégie de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle de la CPLP, appui qui est très reconnu. Le Portugal a signé un accord avec la FAO pour élever le statut de son bureau à Lisbonne, en fournissant des ressources humaines et financières pour son fonctionnement, afin qu'il puisse apporter une contribution accrue à la mise en œuvre de la stratégie de la CPLP. Malheureusement, il n'a pas été possible d'aller dans cette direction, ce que nous regrettons. Le Portugal dispose d'une capacité technique tant au niveau de son administration publique qu'au niveau privé. Il est disponible pour collaborer avec ses partenaires de CPLP dans la mise en œuvre de la stratégie de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle. Portugal est disponible aussi pour collaborer et renforcer ses relations avec les FAO et le FIDA pour développer la stratégie de sécurité alimentaire et nutritionnelle du CPLP. Merci.
Thank you, Antonio, for giving us a wide view, not just about what is happening in Portugal, but also about the whole years of work of creating commitments around needs that are recognized for all of us in the CPLP countries of what it needs to be done in order to eradicate hunger and poverty in our region. Thank you. Thank you very much for that context. Just a quick note, we are choosing today English and some speakers French. In the last, in a previous webinar, we tried to do English and Portuguese and it took too long. It was hard. So today we are choosing English, but of course Portuguese will be always the first language, but today it makes easier for everybody. It's just a quick note about some comments that appeared. And now I pass the micro to Mrs. Isabel Andur, IFAD Partnership Officer for Portugal, that will give us a brief context about what brings us together today. Sadel, it's yours.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Good afternoon again, colleagues. Good afternoon, Mr. Miguel, and everybody else participating from IFAD and the Portuguese government. We're happy to be here today, showing again IFAD's long-standing collaboration with Portugal. Allow me to acknowledge Mr. Miguel's statements in the collaboration IFAD FAO Lisbon, and to point out that before I get into the context of our COVID, is to call upon the Portuguese government. The CPLP is championed by Portugal. You have countries from least income to upper middle income in the group. You have fragile countries like Guinea-Bissau. You have new countries like Timor-Leste. IFAD is present in all those countries. We look upon to Portugal to demonstrate ownership as the CPLP champion, if I may use that word, given that Portugal is the Western country member of the CPLP community. We have a long-standing collaboration, and allow me here, Mr. Miguel, if you can please take this to message to our governor and forward to our minister, that we demand, we urge and appeal to you to re-engage and be engaged with Portugal. The CPLP countries that IFAD invests in needs contributions from members, voluntary contributions. We have been having challenges securing your participation, and we believe we can do things together if all members come on board and support the IFAD replenishment. We have initiated consultations of our 12th replenishment, and we look forward to increased significant participation of all member countries, Portugal included. Portugal is a list A country. Portugal is a strong member of IFAD, is one of the initial members of IFAD, is the overall leader, if I may use that word, of the CPLP, and we have opportunities to work with the SSTC portfolio to do things together in the CPLP countries. And here again, we solicit your kind ownership of IFAD to allow us get the resources we need to invest more in these countries. That was a message to Mr. Miguel that I plead that you take to our governor, Isabel, who would then pass it on diligently. Talking of COVID, I won't go much into it. IFAD has initiated the Rural Poor Stimulus Facility, approved since April, and we have already made available 40 million of our own funds and in the process of raising 200 million. We have already some commitments from donor countries that are participating in funding this facility. The facility has a time frame of 18 months to allow us to repurpose some of our resources and respond to the dire needs and urgent needs of our member countries going through a lot. We all know it because of the COVID. In IFAD, our vision is to ensure that this pandemic does not lead to a very terrible, unprecedented food security crisis. That's why we're putting all efforts in, together with the able hands of my colleague directors who would give you technical details, which are beyond my purview. We're doing all we can to ensure that the most vulnerable, the rural communities are empowered to build the resilience needed. IFAD has been doing that, but more now than ever before. The Rural Poor Stimulus Facilities, repurposed funds, will allow IFAD to help more in the communities that are facing the dire consequences of this pandemic. We all know that, yes, it's a health crisis. We all know that the world economy is facing big challenges, but I think we are all aware, especially you guys working in the rural areas and in development, that our beneficiaries, if our target beneficiaries, the development community's target beneficiaries, will be the worst hit and will face the worst consequences of this COVID if we do not make sure that we leave no one behind in responding to their demands, in addressing the challenges now, in repurposing the funds, in coming up with projects that will help us really face this pandemic. Already we have advanced a little bit, but we have not achieved, and we don't think that in the last 10 years to the SDGs, we are set to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. This pandemic, I think, has the possibility of regressing every effort that has been made to avoid falling back to, as they would say, to square one. We need all hands on board. We need Portugal, we need our partner member states, we need the development agencies. We work with our RBA colleagues to make sure that not only we achieve our mandate, to make sure we have a successful replenishment, which is needed now more than ever before, and to make sure that we reach out to our most vulnerable who are in the rural communities. This is just to say this is where we are in IFAD. I won't go into details because my colleagues in the technical teams are more versed in how they have been addressing these challenges, what they have done, what they are about to do, and what their projects entail. Over, and I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Sabel. I think your sense of urgency is completely shared by us, and thank you for giving us the context of all the efforts that IFAD is doing in this moment. So now, after this context part, I will call our country speakers. They will have 10 minutes to share with us in more detail what is going on, what are the planned interventions being developed to build more sustainable food systems, and also to share with us what are the main challenges and potential strategic partnerships, and if they somehow dialogue with those three areas that I mentioned before. And so 10 minutes, and in the end, after all the presentations, there will be time for those who are with us today share their questions or comments, so our speakers can have the opportunity to answer to them. And also thank you for the wide participation that we have today, even from civil society from Portugal and other countries that are today with us. So I will pass the microphone to Gianluca Capaldo from the IFAD country for Cape Verde, Guinea, and Guinea-Bissau. 10 minutes, please.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to join this very interesting meeting. So I prepared a very short presentation on the mitigating the socioeconomic impacts of COVID-19. So probably I should share the screen, should I? Let me.
You already have permission, so I think you can easily.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm responsible for Guinea, Cabo Verde, and Guinea-Bissau. So since the two Portuguese-speaking countries, Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde, I focused on these two for the presentation. Just to a bit explain you the COVID-19, the overall socioeconomic impacts, and how IFAD, which actions IFAD is taking to mitigate its effects in both countries. In the socioeconomic impacts, so in both countries, we partnered with all the UN agencies to do a study on which were basically assessed socioeconomic impacts. In Guinea-Bissau, in particularly, the main impacts of the COVID-19 where the movement restrictions that have impacted a lot the main cash crop in the country. So just to give you an overview, Guinea-Bissau agriculture sector is dominated by the cashew nut. So basically the cashew nut is we can even say pretty much the only crop and the main crop for sure cultivated in the country, and for sure the crop that provides the biggest income to the rural farmers. These movement restrictions had impacted enormously the national economic and the rural population. In basically the smallholder farmers will face potentially up to 75% reduction on their household income. They will have decreased ability to participate in the ongoing agriculture campaign, and the vulnerability to food security will be very much increased. In terms of impact on the national economy, as I said, the cashew nuts represents the 95% of country's exports. It contributes up to 15% of the country's GDP and 12% of tax revenues. So basically this means that if the country fails to have a cashew campaign, so the entire national economy will be heavily impacted. In terms of cases, the numbers we have as at today are about 2,000 cases with 25 deaths and 800, or almost 800 recovered. In Cabo Verde, the main impacts were basically with 50% of national citizens in diaspora, remittances they send back home constitute more than 20% of Cabo Verde GDP. And because of these, the remittances have been assessed as tremendously decreased. Because of the lockdown, the tourism sector may also shrink heavily. So the official statistics, they say between 4 and 5%, but it seems that this percentage is much higher. The regulatory measures will lead to high unemployment rates and to considerable economic disruption. So in addition to COVID, the environment in Cabo Verde is pretty unique. So I think this year has been the third consecutive year that basically in Cabo Verde didn't rain. So in addition to the COVID pandemic, the agriculture sector in Cabo Verde has also to deal with basically the lack of rain and then water. They experienced about 2,373 positive cases with 23 deaths and around about 1,700 recovered. The mitigating socioeconomic effects in Guinea-Bissau, what IFAD is doing in these two countries. So in Guinea-Bissau, Guinea-Bissau is eligible for IFAD to have RPSF, the Rural Poor Stimulus Facility, although Cabo Verde is not. The Rural Poor Stimulus Facility, which is coming from the internal review, is basically, it will be channeled through the ongoing project that is called PADES. It's the Project for Economic Development of the South, which the development goal is to promote agriculture production, aiming at enhancing the food security and the diversification of income in southern regions. The specific actions of PADES of the Rural Poor Stimulus Facility are basically based on 3 pillars. The first one is the distribution of health kits to protect beneficiaries. The second one is to promote awareness campaigns on COVID-19 emergency in collaboration with the regional directions of the Ministry of Health. And the third one is to adopt preventive measures during technical missions and community engagement actions, basically by providing hygiene kits and to make sure that the social distance is assured. So the Rural Poor Stimulus Facility, then we can say, aims to address the short-term disruptions in the food system that are expected to limit the ability of markets to function. disrupt production and processing, and which, combined with the microeconomic and the social effects, will negatively impact livelihood and food security of rural people. The RPSF for Guinea-Bissau is of an amount of about $373,000, with the overall goal to minimize the impacts, the socioeconomic impacts of the COVID-19, and enhance the resilience of the poor smallholder farmers' households through two components: the provision of inputs and basic assets for production, and delivering agriculture-related information through digital services. What is remarkable is that in Guinea-Bissau, we have two projects. One is this PADES that is ongoing, and there is a new one that is called RED. And RED is the biggest project in agriculture that Guinea-Bissau ever had. And we decided to channel it through PADES because it's already well established. So the team is on board already. And the mechanism to implement the projects are very well established at project level and in the country. So for the need to be quickly and immediately operational, so that's why we channeled it through PADES project. Of course, the amount won't solve the entire national situation. We are partnering and in collaboration with other partners. IFAD has a very prominent role in Guinea-Bissau because besides being the biggest donor in the agriculture sector, we are also leading the agriculture working group. So we have the chance to coordinate the entire interventions in the agriculture sector and also to influence the national policies. In Cabo Verde, there is no specific funds to mitigate the socioeconomic impact of COVID-19. The reason why is because the first approach, so the funds were limited, so the criteria were basically to prioritize the most affected countries and the most vulnerable countries and the least developed economies. So but what we did in the other countries, such as the Cabo Verde, is basically we rearranged the budget and the activities of the ongoing project by including some specific activities and some specific funds to mitigate the socioeconomic effects. Specifically in Cabo Verde, we have the ongoing project that is POSER, is the Rural Socioeconomic Opportunities Program. And I'm sure the colleagues and friends from Cabo Verde, they should know it. The program aims to help raise incomes, particularly for women and young people, through supporting permanent income generating activities, contributing to beneficiaries' food security, and guaranteeing that the income generated by these economic activities is used to improve beneficiaries' living conditions. Emergency specific actions, as I said, was a reallocation of funds for emergency purposes, including provision of hygiene kits. What I said also in POSER, we have the possibility, because the POSER is very much a good example. I think it's a best case of a project that is completely embedded in the national strategies and policies. With the time, it's actually becoming a tool to implement and to not only to influence, but also to implement the national policies and strategies. So basically, thanks to the political continuity and the political strategy, so our project is becoming part of it and basically serving it to implement national strategies and also to introduce some innovations. And the next step, so we are doing also with the government of Cabo Verde, IFAD is doing with the government of Cabo Verde, has been requested by the government of Cabo Verde for reimbursable technical assistance, basically to pilot new initiatives, faced most likely to mitigate exactly, so to find innovative ways to finance agriculture and also to mitigate the risk of lack of water through desalinization of seawater. I think I stop here. That's all from my side. I thank you all, and I'm ready and happy to reply to your questions. Over.
Thank you, Gianluca, for your presentation, and for sure you gave us a view of needs that are known for a long time in these countries, and also these partnerships that you indicated now. It seems that they are also aligned with priorities that have been during time identified. So thank you for this very close image of what's going on in Cape Verde and Guinea-Bissau. I will now pass the microphone to Leonardo Rocha, the IFAD Country Program Officer for Brazil. Leonardo, you ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, good morning.
Yours.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Good morning to you all, to our IFAD colleagues, to our Portuguese colleagues from the government of Portugal, and also thank you very much for some of our Brazilian colleagues to be here attending as well. Also would like to thank the presence of Paolo Silveri, who is the Latin American division focal point for the CPLP within IFAD. But yes, I would like to then share the screen to give you this presentation. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Just need to put it in the presentation mode.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Does it work?
Não. Era onde tu estavas?
Yes.
Mas o primeiro. É o primeiro, não é? From beginning. É. O primeiro mesmo. From beginning.
Is that okay? Can you see it?
No, you have to choose the first option in where in the menu you were. Yeah.
From beginning.
Yes. Did
How
you
does that look? Yes, I did.
F5. Click F5.
Yes, that's what I tried as well.
Or below on your right. No.
No, still not.
No, but I think we can follow.
You can follow it.
You don't have a lot of text, so I think it's okay.
No. Okay.
Go ahead.
Right. So it's better to leave it like this. Right, okay. No, it's just a few slides. It's about 5 slides just to give you a snapshot of the program in Brazil, and particularly what we're doing to mitigate the COVID pandemic effects, and also the South-South and triangular cooperation that we have with our colleagues in the CPLP community. Well, this map just shows you the situation in Brazil, where we actually have projects, and you can see it's in one of Brazil's poorest area, which is the northeast of the country, which also has a lot of problems related to climate change and drought. So it's really the very poorest of the poor within Brazil and Latin America that IFAD is benefiting right now. The main production projects are related to food processing units, fruits from the semi-arid, cashew, milk, cassava, but also a lot to do with animal rearing, you know, water access for consumption and production, for animal production. And all of this results in an increase in agricultural productivity of at least 20%. For up to 300,000 families in Brazil. So we're really talking about a large intervention area that involves women, youth, indigenous, quilombola, artisan, fisher people, and the like. Now, COVID, a lot of our Brazil projects active and proactive regarding emergency plans within the context of the COVID pandemic, we've been requested to redirect some funds for a program of seed purchase and fisheries in the semi-arid, and that is mainly seeds for beans, maize, rice, or hortifruti. And also we've been asked to contribute towards the purchase and distribution of basic food items, staple foods, buying them from our beneficiaries, but also distributing them within the project intervention area. Another area that we are actually tackling now in the pandemic is handicraft and non-agricultural activities. I mean, you know that a lot of the women that live in the semi-arid, they are reliant on handicraft, lace making, sewing, and now with the pandemic, there's been a big rise in demand for masks, cloth masks, and our beneficiaries have been very, very good at providing them. So we've been linking with all the governments that are actually implementing our projects and buying them in bulk to distribute them to not only the general community, but hospitals. So we've been doing that with at least 4 out of our 6 projects in Northeast Brazil. And then finally, I just wanted to mention the importance of our South-South and triangular cooperation initiatives. And I mean, this would not be possible without our SEMEAR International program, which is a grant that was designed still when Cabo Verde was country program. Implementation has been extended due to the COVID, and it basically makes the link between our project beneficiaries and beneficiaries in Africa, in a Portuguese-speaking world. And now we've had lots of initiatives now in terms of exchange programs. What can our African colleagues learn from the Brazilian best practices and projects? We have here collaboration with Embrapa, which you must all know, it's one of the world's largest government technology centers for agriculture. So we've put them in touch with our African projects. We've put the cassava Embrapa unit, the semi-arid Embrapa unit, the cotton Embrapa unit, and they're all basically making a link between Brazil projects and our African projects as well. We've had an exchange activity with Mozambique, and our friend here, Custodio, from Mozambique, took a lead in bringing the ProSul project from Mozambique to Brazil for them to exchange their best practices as well. Finally, Sarah, I would like to mention the agroecological logbook training. And this is something that our SEMEAR International project is now very much taking the lead. I think Fabiana, Ruchi, Aline, Gabriel, Anna, they're probably joining us here. And they've been very active in ensuring that women beneficiaries are allowed or are given a chance to register their production, their sales, whatever they produce in their backyard gardens, that they can actually make a record of it so that their work becomes visible. You know, usually when you visit these poor communities, women do most of the work. They do most of the production, but this is invisible. And as a result of this work that SEMEAR International is doing now, we're going to finally be able to see with figures, charts, graphics, the contribution of women to rural development. And I think we can be very proud of this initiative. And also would like to thank you for liaising with SEMEAR and allowing other countries in Africa to have access to this training. São Tomé was one of them, but also others. And that's pretty much it from me. I leave here the address of our 2 offices in Brazil. And of course, we are happy to engage. Last year, we were in Portugal. We are obviously happy to engage with you with whatever request you have so that we can strengthen our collaboration with the CPLP community. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonardo. Yes, the initiative that you mentioned about the rural women, you say they are invisible, but except in the statistics, because statistics show us that they are the economic force in family farming. But it's true that there's a lot to do in terms to make them autonomous and empower them in that sense. And the program of CMR and this collaboration that the previous webinar on Tuesday was about them. There was a lot of women there, and they were sharing their experiences. It was very, very inspiring, even to hear the men talking about the women. And it's a good example of an exchange of a practice that is working very well. And it's simple, so it's simple technology that women can work with, and really also diversify the sources of income and make them more autonomous. And again, this issue of, you know, the seeds and diversifying economy and purchasing to family farming also, I think it really fits here in these three areas that I mentioned in the beginning and that have been discussed in the previous webinars about strengthening family farming. And public procurement is a very important measure, and Brazil also has a lot to about it. And also the drought that you mentioned in the semi-arido, that it's pretty close to what Gianluca brought us about Cape Verde, and it's a reality that for a long time is damaging the country, but also other CPLP countries, including also Portugal, where is more and more a reality. Thank you. So I would pass now the microphone to Custódio Mucavele. Custódio is the IFAD country program officer for Mozambique. Are you ready, Custódio? You have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Sarah, and greetings to everybody. My name is Custódio Mucavele, and I'm the country program officer for Mozambique. But I also assist my country director with the Angola, because my country director is for both Mozambique and Angola, so I assist him with the Angola. So I will also briefly give you some figures on what's happening in Angola and in regards to both COVID and what IFAD is actually doing, you know, to support the country. Well, in both cases, in Mozambique and Angola, the first cases of COVID were reported from March 2020, and currently the cases in Mozambique is around 1,700, and with the 700 people already recovered, and around the 11 or 12, I think it was 12 people from yesterday's update that the deaths. And in the case of Angola, it's around 1,078 people that were cases, with around 300 people recovered and 48 deaths. So in Angola, we have more deaths actually comparing to Mozambique, although in Mozambique has more cases of COVID. Now, in terms of impacts okay, first of all, the government has decided to, in Mozambique, we are in the state of emergency. So the government is kind of working halfway. It's around the 30%, you know, going to work in the government. And the schools are all closed, you know, from secondary school, from primary schools to the university, everything is closed. We expect the president, sometimes today or tomorrow to come with it, because the schools have been closed for the last 4 months. We expect the president to say something maybe tomorrow on what will be the position. But there's some indications from 2 weeks ago when President came. He indicated that to open the schools, it will be only when the minimal conditions are made available, in particular the water, you know, in the school. So it's unlikely that all the school will have all these conditions available to ensure that they start. Now, in terms of impacts, lots of economic impacts, and as you know, people in Mozambique. Mozambique, it's a very informal country. There are many people who, to have something to eat, they must go and do something, or to go to the field, or to go to work. So you can imagine that there is a lot of people suffering, because there's actually, we'll have more people suffering from hunger and than necessarily the COVID, if you like, because people, I mean, the economy of the country is kind of, not moving, and that is not good. In terms of what is IFAD doing, in terms of supporting the country to cope with this situation, as you know, IFAD, we are both UN organization, and at the same time we are a donor. So we belong to these two groups in country. As a UN organization, we work together with the FAO and WFP in what we call food security and nutrition group, and we have produced a proposal and to support the sector, in particular the agriculture sector. And this proposal is in the context of the UN support to the country. And then as a donor, we are, as IFAD, we are within the group of donors that is supporting agriculture sector. That group is called AGRED. And we have also conveyed some resources. What we did, which is not different from the other countries, where IFAD is providing support, is to repurpose the resources from the ongoing loans. In our particular case, we have repurposed $3.3 million US from the two ongoing projects, and that is being allocated to support initiatives in terms of COVID pandemic. What in both in the UN and in the AGRED group, the main objective of these resources is to make sure inputs are available, not necessarily for the ongoing agriculture season, but for the next agriculture season. As you know, for those who are familiar with Mozambique, this agriculture season starts in September. So for the agriculture season that just came to an end, we don't see more, problems, because the COVID pandemic the breakout came where the season was about to close. But for the coming agriculture season, we can foresee a number of challenges, in particular because we depend on South Africa. And this, I'm going to the next chapter, which is challenges. And I think something that we need to talk about. What are the challenges? One of the challenges is if you see South Africa is in serious, we are about close to 400,000 cases in South Africa, and this is our neighbor. And South African economy is a strong economy. Mozambique depends very much on the South African economy in a number of cases. So with South African economy not doing well because of COVID-19, we are likely to have the situation worsen in Mozambique in a number of cases: input supplies, food, chains, and so on. So what we are trying to do with the resource that we are allocated to is to assist the country in making sure that we have inputs available for at least for the agricultural season in the next coming agricultural season, so that food is available for the country. In terms of what we are doing with the CPLP countries, I think Leonardo has indicated we have a number of initiatives. I don't want to repeat again what Leonardo has said. Is what we are working together with Leonardo. Very recently, actually, we have started to work on a small grant, SSTC, South Technical Cooperation. We try to work together in a small grant that is related to enhancing capacity of it's more on markets and institutions. We are working on it. It's very immature. We are still in a very early stage of preparing it. We also have the Rural Poor Stimulus Facility also for Mozambique, and that was indicated also by Sabel. We have this resource. It's about it's about 700 $1,000 that we are going to, is allocated to Mozambique for rural poor stimulus facility. And that is going to be implemented through a new project that is starting now. We call it ProCava. Is a value chain project that will be covering the whole country and is the one that is going to prepare a small project to get the resources, to use the resources under the rural poor stimulus facility. But overall, the resource again are to ensure the availability of inputs for agriculture season and also for the marketing, for the marketing and for market linkages to ensure that the farmers have access to markets and the agro processing. I think in summary, this is what I had prepared. Later on I will share it with you, and I'll put this in writing. Participating in a mission in a supervision mission. So I didn't have time to put this before, but I will put 1 or 2 slides and I will share with you on this and this summary that I provided. In regards to Angola, we are also repurposing the project resource. We have 2 ongoing projects in Angola. One is the smallholder agriculture and commercialization, and the other project is agriculture recovery project. We have also repurposing some $3 million to support the government of Angola in terms of input acquisitions to support the agriculture sector. So I think this is what I can say at the moment. Thank you, and over.
Thank you, Custodio. And I specifically noted this aspect that you bring about the complexity of relationships between countries, economies, and how what is happening in one country affects others, in the case Mozambique and South Africa. And these boundaries, these connections, they really, in these times, show us how much connected we are, and also these after the quarantine, what is coming, and how harsh it will be for everybody of us. And that's why it's so important to really go deep on what we do to mitigate the crisis, but to go beyond that. So thank you very much. And finally, I will pass the micro to Marcelin Norvilus, the IFAD Program Officer for São Tomé and Príncipe. Marcelin?
Merci Sarah. Bonjour à tout le monde. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, je suis Marcelin Norvilus, Program Officer for São Tomé and Príncipe, in collaboration with Mimendi Okubayo, directrice pays, qui n'était pas disponible pour cette réunion. Je représente la directrice pays avec notre collègue ici présent, Enrico Protomastro. São Tomé and Príncipe, I have a little presentation that I'm going to share. Okay. So, do you see it? Is it okay?
Yes, now it's perfect.
Do you see my screen?
Super.
Sarah?
Oh. Ouais, it's okay. Yes.
Good. Je ne vais pas entrer trop dans les détails de São Tomé et Príncipe. Comme vous savez, c'est une petite île d'environ. Ouais. São Tomé et Príncipe, c'est une petite île d'environ 1000 km², 200 000 habitants environ, et donc nous travaillons, le FIDA travaille avec São Tomé et Príncipe depuis une vingtaine d'années. Et c'est seulement l'année dernière, 2019, qu'on a élaboré ce qu'on appelle un plan de stratégie, un plan de coopération. C'est un cadre stratégique intermédiaire où, avec le gouvernement, on a...
Marcelin?
Yeah, I think there was a problem of connection. If you want, I can have the same presentation, so I can go on, unless
he's
Marcelin...
again with us, but
Marcelan?
Hello.
Sorry,
It's very,
yes.
very slow, the connection.
Yes, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, Enrico, can you take over the presentation?
Yeah,
hello.
sure. I will do it. I will do it.
Very good.
Yeah, no problem.
Good team. Thank you.
1 second.
Enrico.
Yeah, I got it.
Absolutely, yeah. Enrico is taking over from you.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Yes. Go ahead.
Perfect. So we prepared this presentation about what actually IFAD is doing right now for mitigating the damaging effects of COVID-19 in São Tomé and Príncipe. And we decided actually to start with our framework of activities, and then we will specify why it's important. This is just a small introduction of the characteristic of São Tomé and Príncipe. Is of course a small island with a relatively small population, almost 400,000 people, with a GDP of $200 per person. And as we do in IFAD, we also in 2019 designed a country strategy note. There is a bit of framework for IFAD's engagement in for rural development transformation at the country level. For São Tomé and Príncipe, we have two strategic objectives. So promote climate resilient family farming, commercial agriculture, and support policy dialogue and strengthen human capital. Within this framework of the country strategy note, IFAD launched this program this year. That's why we underline, of course, the importance of this program, because it's not already started and will be important, of course, during the implementation of COMPRAN, commercialization, agricultural productivity and nutrition project, readdress some of course financial resources to specifically address some problems that were, let's say, brought up by the COVID-19. The objective of this program is to sustainably improve incomes, food and nutritional security for small producers with the three components, as you can see. Going too deep with what IFAD is doing vis-a-vis the pandemic, here is like a small presentation of this rural pool stimulus facility that was already mentioned by my colleagues before. And it's just sum up this slide what this tool means to do. So it's an emergency fund to help the most vulnerable and marginalized people to survive the crisis, to boost their resilience and to accelerate the recovery of rural communities. The initial commitment of IFAD is about $40 million in grants, and this is expected to leverage more resources up to $200 million with the contribution, of course, of the other member states. As our colleague Sabel was mentioning about replenishment, for instance. There are 4 categories of intervention, as you can see, and we decided, and you can see later, that we decided to focus, because of course, the characteristic of the country, on the first category of intervention, providing inputs and basic assets for production of crops, livestock, and fisheries. The others that you can see are other 3 categories that we decided not to focus on in our rural stimulus facility related to São Tomé and Príncipe. So, why is it? Okay, all right. This is actually what is actually happened from April 2020 up until today. So the São Tomé government requests support from IFAD to mitigate the effects of the pandemic, especially on food production. At that time, IFAD was designing actually this tool that I was describing before, at of course headquarter level, at the central level, that has become effective in June. And the ministry in June 2020 submit an official request of about $200,000 to support agricultural production as small livestock. And nowadays, today, the country team is developing a proposal for an amount of almost $730,000 with a financial gap of more than 500,000 in case of additional resources will be provided. As you can see, the outcomes of the rural poor stimulus facility that related to São Tomé Principe are access and utilization of quality agricultural inputs and seeds, and the second is focus on the livestock. So productivity and resilience of the livestock sector is maintained through chicken and pigs, distribution of chicken and pigs. The third actually outcomes will be confirmed once we hope the additional resources will be settled. So access to electricity within fishermen communities. Why we decided to be focused on the first, on these two, let's say, categories? Because of course, given the insular nature of São Tomé Principe, the first consequence of COVID-19 and the pandemic was actually the supply of agricultural inputs and livestock, since the pandemic made it difficult not only the movement of people, but also the movement of goods. And so this, let's say, tool will help the rural communities of São Tomé Principe to support the communities waiting for Compran, the first project that I was mentioned, will be actually effective and will be launched officially. We expect that will be launched around September. And this is going to deep about which will be our targeted, so beneficiaries. In IFAD, of course, we are really gender focused and youth focused. So 50% of our beneficiary will be smallholder women farmers, and almost about 30% youth, that is considered all the population below the 35 years old. And as you can see, the last part of my slides sum up a bit the component of cost of this $200,000. Almost 50% of the overall amount will be dedicated of agriculture and so providing of good quality seeds. Almost 30% in livestock, so mainly cows and pigs. 15% in communication, another 15% to assure a smooth monitoring evaluation of the overall project. So thank you so much. With this slide, I put just like a word, and excuse me not to make this presentation important. So, obrigado, thanks, and of course we are open to your question or suggestion or clarification. Thank you, Sarah.
Obrigada,
I don't know,
Enrico.
maybe Marcelana, I don't know if you want to add something or if there is still some problem of connection.
It's okay, Enrico. I think we don't have to mobilize too much.
Okay.
If we have to ask something, if there is some question, we will come back. Thank you.
Great.
Over.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, great team spirit.
Thank you, Enrico, for your support and for being so clear and respecting the time. Thank you. I really see that what is coming, what you presented, it can, and it would be really good to support the 100% organic country that the country is being committed to, and to really make of it a project for São Tomé that it's also very inspiring for the other CPLP countries, because it's the country where sustainable family farming and agroecology is being worked a lot around the center of competences for sustainable family farming. So we hope that this support can also be a way to strengthen that project of the region. Thank you. So now we have here two questions. and one is from Paulo Silveri and another from Joana Diaz. We don't have more comments or questions, and because we had this provision to end soon, I think we can stay with these two questions, and I would give you 5 minutes each, so you could comment and answer to this question. I think, are you listening to me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we are all listening.
Okay, okay.
I would defer Paulo's question, given that it's coming from an IFAD colleague. May I defer it to Mr. Miguel of the Portuguese government or some civil society participant who can come up with this? Because I would consider it an IFAD question because it comes from a colleague. Over.
I'm afraid I didn't understand, Sabel. Could you repeat, please? I'm sorry.
Sarah, I'm saying, Paulo, thank you for the question. I would defer this question if Mr. Miguel can come in first as the representative of the Portuguese government to answer Paulo's question. Is there anything Portugal or any other private sector participant who we are not aware of can come in to say something? Over. And then if my colleagues in the projects can have something to add. Over.
Yes, thank you, Sabel. As I was mentioning, I invite you all for 5 minutes to answer or comment both questions. And one is, as you were saying, if the Portuguese or any other CPLP government or private public entities are interested in impact development and to covering any of these financial gaps for these development projects. And then from Joanna, she's commenting about the last Tuesday webinar around women as guardians of sustainable food systems. And in that occasion, the importance of South-South cooperation and sharing good practices was highlighted. And soon we will circulate the results of that session for you all to know the result. And how the participants from the different CPLP countries would see possible cooperation among CPLP countries, promoting exchange actions on the 3 main areas that were identified previously and that I referred: the sustainable territorial food systems and healthy diets, food self-sufficiency, sovereignty, supply and access to institutional markets, and strengthening family farming and rural women. So I guess Joanna is pointing out those 3 main areas that partially you referred in the priorities or that are coming on the projects or programs that you're creating, but to comment how you see knowledge exchange like those that are happening between Brazil and São Tomé, and the previous webinar was a result on these 3 main areas. So I invite you for 5 minutes to comment or to give an answer to these 2 questions from Paulo Silveri about the gaps in the impact development, if there are another stakeholders' interest to cover that, and also about these three main areas. How do you see concrete exchanges around these 3 main areas? So, Cerca Miguel, you were the first. Foi o primeiro, António. I invite you to start. Le premier, hein? Está com o som desligado. Your sound is off.
Já se ouve agora? Está a ouvir? Ok. Bon, j'aimerais répondre au défi que Isabelle a fait au Portugal dans son intervention. Bon, le Portugal participe depuis longtemps dans les activités du FIDA. Quand on est entré dans une période d'intervention, difficultés financières publiques, avec une intervention financière externe, on a suspendu la participation du Portugal au FIDA. parce qu'on n'avait pas de ressources. Maintenant, les choses sont améliorées du point de vue du budget national. De toute façon, cette crise du Covid fera enfoncer tous les budgets des pays. Mais on espère que très brièvement, on peut reprendre la participation financière au FIDA. C'est un désir et nous souhaitons beaucoup que ça puisse arriver très brièvement. De toute façon, nous avons un avantage dans les relations avec les pays de CPLP. On parle portugais, pas maintenant, mais on parle portugais et je pense que ça, c'est un avantage pour coopérer. On a on a des potentiels et on a des possibilités, des techniciens qui peuvent être disponibles de la part de l'administration et de la part des techniciens privés aussi qui peuvent qui sont bien préparés pour coopérer avec les pays de CPLP. Il y a beaucoup qui connaissent très bien le terrain et je pense que ça c'est un avantage. Même si on n'a pas contribué financièrement au FIDA, on est disponible pour collaborer en disponibilisant ces gens pour travailler dans les projets et les programmes que les FIDA pensent que c'est souhaitable que ça peut arriver. On a déjà parlé sur ça avec les FIDA et on continue à être disponible pour le faire. Entre-temps, quand les conditions financières publiques s'améliorent et le permet, on va reprendre certainement la collaboration financière avec les FIDA. Merci.
Thank you, Antonio. Sabel, do you want to comment on the questions?
In fact, I would just pick up where Antonio dropped off because we in IFAD, and Paulo, I don't know if you would want to come in because allow me here to acknowledge Paulo because he has been the lead facilitator in our re-entry and re-engagement with Portugal. He is the one who led us to Francisco, whom I also thank very much in case he's listening or he has logged in, and that has led us to this webinar. And we are just hoping that this will be one of many interactions and exchanges we will be having with the government in our efforts to re-engage the government of Portugal as a key member state of IFAD. We are also in touch with FAO colleagues, and Antonio, may I reassure you that the food security strategy that your office has submitted to the FAO, we are also trying to see how best, as IFAD also working in food security, how we can come together to make this a reality. We have not officially started any discussions, but primarily and exchanges are looking into possibilities of moving this agenda forward. Over, Paulo Silveri, it would be very good if you can come up and say something because Paulo is a key player in this relationship and to the facilitation of this webinar. Thank you.
Well, we are trying, Sabel, to bring it on with us. Just give us some minutes to take care of that.
Would be very good. And in case my colleagues, the project staff, have anything to add into what or react to Antonio's few words, and when Paulo comes on board, if Francisco is on, it will be good to hear a word or two from him if he can have access to
Well, actually, I just saw now because some questions arrived now, and Francisco really left here a question like other participants. He's asking if rural women and access to markets, if it is a common priority for all the IFAB participants as a priority action issue to mitigate impacts for COVID-19. And so while we are expecting the possibility to have Paolo with us, I invite Gianluca to comment on the questions about that were put on the questions and answers about this issue, more about the partners in terms of the impact development gaps, but also, and this is what really gathers us here today, also this issue about how do you see these three main areas as possible areas for exchange between the CPLP countries.
Okay.
Gianluca.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me? Yes. So I just wanted to say, I was happy to see the three main pillars, because basically, as I mentioned, especially in Guinea-Bissau, we have formulated a pretty ambitious project. And basically, the entire project strategy is around the three pillars. So basically, so this is the decade of family farming. So it's a family. The title is family farming, actually, diversification and market project. So basically, the entire project strategy is the diversification of agriculture, because, as I said, agriculture in Guinea-Bissau is dominated by the cashew nut, with an impressive impact on the environment and on the resilience of the economic sustainability of rural households. The markets, because basically the approach is market-centered. So it basically is the other way around. So for the first time in the country, the people will have to choose whether to consume what they produce or to go and sell and buy in the markets. So we will be building basically physical markets located either at the center, so in Bissau, or near the borders. That's because we want to increase a lot the exchanges and the interconnections with the neighboring countries. And this is in the spirit of South-South cooperation, but not only, it's also in the spirit to involve private sector, it's also in the spirit to involve exchanges with the neighboring countries. How is the relationship, what are we doing on women and access to markets? So that we have an entire component around women, and we are also targeting people with disabilities. Well, basically there will be specific interventions where target beneficiaries will be the women and people with disabilities. Women not only in terms of production, but also in terms of food education. So we'll be basically creating a kind of listening clubs, what we can say, by teaching them how can they best cook in order to get the best nutrition value out of the crops they produce, or out of the new products they will have access to. So as I said, in terms of exchange South-South cooperation with other CPLP countries, of course, this is key. We are trying to do it with Brazil. We are trying to do it between Guinea-Bissau and Cabo Verde. We are willing to do it more and more, but there is an enormous appetite in terms of also the government, in terms of of getting funds. IFAD is more and more playing a role of assembler of funds, and this is an example. I have basically the IFAD contribution for this project in Guinea-Bissau says 20%, 80% is from other donors, and this is pretty much emblematic of the interest other donors have in the country in investing in the thematic we are facing, and also in the credibility we are getting in some specific countries. And I can speak for the countries I'm responsible for, because I think in terms of implementation, in terms of credibility, in terms of international visibility. I think we are pretty good, we are pretty lucky, and so that's why we are getting more and more interest from international partners, and we welcome such an important player, like the Portuguese, of course, in these countries. Over to you.
Thank you, Gianluca. It's wonderful to know how much interest there is, and we hope that the guidelines that guide the specific projects can be also aligned with all the priorities that have been through years worked on by the different actors united in the Council of CPLP. Thank you very much. And I would now pass for Leonardo. Leonardo, 5 minutes to comment and answer these 3 questions.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I think I would like to touch particularly on Joanna's questions, which involve a lot of the work that we're doing in terms of food security and access to water, which leads to more nutritious diets. So we believe it's very important to have safe water, especially in poor areas. And the work that we have in terms of building cisterns, in terms of building new dams, in terms of building new desalinators, particularly in the semi-arid, you know, the water is very salty. It's not appropriate for consumption. So I think all these investments that IFAD does, they're extremely important in guaranteeing access to potable water and also water that they can use for animal production that will lead inevitably to better nutrition and food security. So this is something that Brazil, what we do here, we could share, and we are sharing already with our colleagues in the CPLP community. And I think it's a program like Semiar International has been done a lot of exchanges on these initiatives. Now, the question on access to institutional markets. This is a very, also a crucial issue for those family farmers that actually produce for self-sufficiency, that have excess production but cannot sell them, because they have not found a way of selling them, or they may not have the right label for the products, or they may not have the right certification. So with this, we have been doing some partnerships with some entities like Slow Food for some cooperatives here in Brazil. Slow Food, you're aware, from Italy. And they do all this great work in capacity building and making the farmers realize the importance of giving the right package to their products, so that these products can reach you know, different markets, not only institutional markets, but also the private sector. And again, technical assistance. Technical assistance is crucial. Sometimes you come with the investment money, but if you do not make a team, a technical assistance team that will be there in the field to help them, you know, sell the products, to help them connect with other markets, then it's not enough. So that's what, I know that there's a lot of other questions that our colleagues may, one thing I would like to say to our Portuguese colleagues, Portuguese government, every single money that IFAD invests in Brazil, every single dollar gets at least another $3 or $4 of counterpart contribution from the Brazilian government, but also from the beneficiaries themselves. So with only, just to give you the idea, Brazil gives a contribution to IFAD around $10 million. That can be a bit less depending on the government, but then IFAD puts back $100 million, and the governments here, the local governments, they put back another $300 million. So you can see that you know, the multiplication effect on the importance of keeping these programs, these public policies alive. So that's the message I give, you know, not only to Portugal, but to the list one countries, of the importance of continuing supporting agriculture in developing countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Leonardo. Your words are also the words from civil society, and in the last years, and as Antonio Cerca Miguel mentioned, all the work that has been done in terms of the family farming guidelines and other very important events that happened and gather up all the members of the council around those priorities. It's really, really, really important to stick on that work, and even for Portugal, that has also a lot to do in its context for food security. So thank you. I would pass now to Custódio Mucavele from Mozambique, or to Enrico.
Thank you, Sarah.
Oh, no.
This is Custódio.
Enrico is with Marcel, and I'm so sorry.
No
Go
problem.
ahead, Custódio.
No
Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. I think for the three questions, it's, I mean, they are all relevant, and there is a lot of room. And I think if Paulo can recall, when Paulo was in charge of Brazil, and I was lucky to have opportunity to work with the Brazilian team for 6 months, and as Leonardo has pointed out before, we actually started to organize teams of exchange in some of these areas. In particular, if you like, we can look into the food self-sufficiency, supply and access, and also institutional areas and markets, and also looking to the rural women. As you know, in our countries, we have similarities where women are the majority of workforce. You know, if you like, in the farming, in the rural, in the agriculture sector. So we actually in Brazil we started to organize teams from teams from Mozambique visiting Brazil. And we made some priority. I think one of the most important things is to make priority, because there are so many things to look at, and we need to prioritize what we need, you know, in some of those exchanges. And with that time in Brazil, if I recall, some of the priorities that we worked with the Seminário Internacional was, one was in the water harvesting facilities, for example. And we have Brazil is very advanced in this particular area. In particular, I remember they have these reservoirs of 32 cubic meters and 52 cubic meters in that area of Sertão, which is useful. It's very dry area, where with about 100 to 250 millimeters of rain per year, which is similar to some areas in Mozambique. So that requires, you know, to have some facilities to capture rainwater for farmers to use, you know, throughout the year. And that is a good experience. I found it very useful from Brazil. Also in the area of supplementary feeding, we learn from Brazil also in those areas of very dry areas, in semi-arid areas, that they have supplementary feedings for farm animals that Mozambique can also adopt, because we have similar ecosystem as in Mozambique. Another area, it was agro-processing and value added. Brazil is very experienced in this. This is another area that Mozambique could learn. Another area, just to mention, it was on research and extension linkages. We see that Brazil has done a lot on research and on research extension. One of the missing links in agriculture development is this link between research and extension. And we can exchange. So just to mention a number of things. So in full, in a nutshell, to agree with what Paulo is proposing, and to say there is a lot of room for coordination. And this is some of the areas that the project, IFAD supported projects, are doing in the CPLP that we can exchange. Thank you, and over.
Thank you, Custodio. I won't make more comments because we are squeezed with time. So I will pass to Marcelo. Can't be anymore with us. He had to leave. So Enrico, please go ahead.
Yes. I don't know what to add actually on what my colleagues they already said. I saw some question actually in question and answer. And so one that was raised by Francisco about the importance of like access to market. I don't speak Portuguese, but I guess like I can
yes,
help myself with Italian.
If it's a main priority,
yeah, maybe it was a bit quick during my presentation, but it was clearly stated is one of the 4 priority of this rural poor stimulus facility that IFAD designed in April. So absolutely yes. In São Tomé, we decided, of course, to give priority more to the to another component. But I guess that also, I saw, for instance, like the rural poor stimulus facility that was designed by Gianluca in Guinea-Bissau, and I saw that there is something about it. So absolutely is I can confirm is an absolutely priority.
Okay, thank you, Enrico. So I will pass the word to Paolo. Paolo, so regarding Sabel's invitation, do you want to make some comments to give us an even more wider view? And I see that you have a picture.
Now he has access to the very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I was given access, Sabel. Thank you very much, and it's good to see so many colleagues and friends. Let me recognize first Antonio Miguel's and Sabel's work to intensify this cooperation that I believe has a lot of potential. As I said, my colleagues have been extensive in listing, all the areas that can benefit both sides, IFAD and Portugal, and as well as all other CPLP members, both in the government part and in the civil society and private sector part, food security, family farming, climate change, women's empowerment, nutrition, youth employment. The list can continue, but these are all areas where we are all working, and we all have a policy and a political priority and commitment to engage. So the common platform is there, and I'm glad that we were well on track at the time before COVID to retrieve this historic cooperation that Antonio Miguel referred to earlier. When Portugal engaged with IFAD at the beginning, and then for internal circumstances, it was not active anymore for a while, but it was about to be reactivated. We very much look forward to that reactivation. It doesn't take a lot of money, but it takes political commitment and it takes determination to advance in an agenda that has lots of common areas, as we could see today. Secondly, Portugal is not only the lead member of CPLP, if we can say so, without in any ways downgrading any of the other CPLP members, of course, but it's the originator, at least, of the language. But it's also the bridging country between CPLP and the European Union. We should not forget that while some of our countries at this point in time may not have enough resources to engage in development support as we would wish to, the European Union has different resources, and Portugal is a bridge into the European Union, both in terms of methodologies and in terms of financial resources. Let me also mention, by the way, all that the Minister of Agriculture of Portugal has presented at the summit in Lisbon a couple of years ago, and all that the civil society representatives and the private sector representatives presented to that summit. There's a lot, I believe, that Portugal can show and can share in terms of methodologies of area-based development, of community development, of family farming development. So, you know, there's so many ingredients on the table, and we just have to make the cake come out of the oven in a way. It's really, everything is there. So let me also mention the contribution and the role that the FAO, CPLP, Liaison Office, and Francisco in particular, but not only Francisco, his entire team, the role that they're playing, which can easily be upscaled into a Rome-based agencies liaison function. So there's another line of potential that is there. Custodian Leonardo mentioned South-South and triangular cooperation. It's not a potential, but it's a fact. It's already happening in BRAPA, CMEA International, the knowledge management grant program in Mozambique that Custodio and his Brazilian colleague were managing at the time. So there's really a lot that can be done. So, and as last comment, let me also say, as you certainly know, but let me reiterate it here, that IFAD is expanding its portfolio of options of cooperation. We have had for so many years only projects and programs as channels of cooperation. Now there's reimbursable technical assistance, which was mentioned in one of the countries that, one of the cases that was presented with a financing gap. It's a new way to cooperate, results-based lending, South-South, knowledge management exchange. There's new financing options as well. So it doesn't need to be necessarily exclusively Portugal's contribution to IFAD replenishment, but it can be a cooperation that takes many other shapes. The bottom line is that we have a common agenda in family farming, in the decade, in food security. Let us seek cooperation ways so that as soon as, possibly before, but at least as soon as the COVID emergency is over, we are ready on the line to start working together. Thank you very much, and congratulations again for the initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulo. I will pass now to Francisco Sarmento. Francisco, are you with us? Your micro is off.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Hola, okay, yes.
Well, first of all, apologies for not turning on the camera, but I'm in the middle of the countryside and my connection is terrible, so I will not use it. And secondly, I would like to thank you for allowing me to say some words as suggested by Isabel. I would like to welcome all the colleagues here. I know some of you, others not, but I'm pretty sure that here we have around the table, all of us, strong supporters of this possible cooperation between the CPLP and IFAD. Otherwise, we won't be here. So it's a pleasure to be with all of you. I would agree with what was just said by Paolo entirely, Silveri, and I would like just basically to remind, and eventually something new for some of the colleagues here, that in my perception, and it's not just because I'm half Portuguese, Angolan, Brazilian, and I would like to live in São Tomé. It's not because of that. It's basically because I'm pretty sure that all the countries involved, they share common agro ecosystems that are really something that is interesting in terms of developing concrete cooperation and program work. They have a legal and institutional framework that it's quite common in all the countries. And food culture in all the countries have also several similarities between the different countries. And we have a remarkable institutional common framework to support South-South and triangular cooperation and programs. On the other hand, I think that CPLP has also a remarkable institutional and political framework to support those activities, because we were able to put at the same table around 500 civil society organizations. This is about 25 million farmers from the different countries that are normally connecting, engaging in dialogue, and sitting together to make proposals to their ministers We have around 1,800 small and medium enterprises that are also participating on the Food Security and Nutrition Council from CPLP, and we have around 10 universities. This is basically to say that we have an incredible network of stakeholders, the stakeholders that we are working in all the countries, and the stakeholders that actually are the ones we would like to work and to exchange knowledge among them. So I think we should use that opportunity, we should strengthen it, and we should use it. And I would like to congratulate Actuar and Alimenta CPLP for putting together this website, this webinar, without any specific resources in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic, because this is quite useful. And the fact that we are here, it shows clearly the importance of this initiative. I would tend to say and to believe that while the political and institutional agreement between Portugal and IFAD, it's something that is going to happen, and we are all expecting it to happen, it doesn't mean necessarily that we can't move. I think we have several things that we can do together. We have different initiatives that we can start in the medium term to exchange knowledge among our countries, because I think that will be important. So I will tend to propose and to stimulate the colleagues that we could work on both directions. Let me share my lessons learned with the FAO process, is that basically it came from the ground. It was basically the cooperation and the knowledge exchange involving farmer organizations and civil society organizations from all CPLP countries that led later to the development of national food security and nutrition strategies in all CPLP member countries, and later for the regional food security and nutrition strategy. So we started that process basically with knowledge exchanges involving all the stakeholders that we are working together. And for me, this was a lesson learned. I mean, then governments, they decided to develop their national strategies, and they came together to develop a common umbrella at regional level, at the CPLP level, but the whole process started from the ground. Maybe this is an important lesson learned that we can use for the future. So while we continue to strengthen the relation between one member country, one crucial member country, Portugal, and let me also remind that Portugal is going to have the European Commission presidency next year. So that role will be more important than before. But as I was saying, while we continue to fight for that engagement, let's not just wait. Let's try to make something together, starting from the ground, putting our stakeholders together and strengthening the knowledge among them. And thanks again very much for giving the opportunity to say these small words. And congratulations for the initiative.
Thank you, Francisco. I think we're done. I would like just to ask our speakers who shared presentations if they could share with us, so we can share with the participants that are asking for it. And I would also like to add that, as you mentioned, Francisco, and as I mentioned in the beginning, this is an initiative from Actuar, but as the secretariat of the mechanism. And yesterday we have a meeting before today, and our sense of urgency is really big because people are dying, terrible things are happening, but this is a continuity crisis. And all the work that has been done around the CPLP strategy is based in long-term needs that really need to be addressed, and lots of efforts have been doing. And our sense of urgency keeps the same and now bigger. So we are really counting on everybody. We always made exchanges, and that have been also very fruitful for Portugal. And here I'm talking, if you allow me, as a Portuguese woman. All the CPLP countries, they have unique practices, knowledge that is really very, very useful, even for a country that is in the European Union context. And we really have to learn a lot with our colleagues from the other CPLP countries. And so this exchange methodology of work during all these years has been very fruitful for us to keep hope alive in our countries. And yes, the circumstantials and the situations, they are very diverse, but the challenges, they are the same in all the 9 countries. So again, thank you very much. This was a session with some surprises, but I think they were very good surprises, because they, in the end, they also allowed us to go deeper and more directly have a conversation of how important it is for us to really stick to priorities and work together. So thank you very much to each speakers, and also to Sabel for also in allowing this last part of the conversation. Thank you for accepting the invitation, for entering in this platform with us. And let's keep working, let's keep talking, but more than talking, please, let's start really working and putting the priorities into concrete actions. Sabel, you want to say something?
Yeah, just to Enrique, I did Francisco, sorry, to your question, and all my colleagues have mentioned what the RPS is doing. Maybe just to say, like in block, for those of who missed 1 or 2 parts of anybody's presentation, that the Rural Poor Stimulus Facility concentrates, in fact, prioritizes 4 areas: the provision of inputs and basic assets for production, facilitating access to markets, preserving services and jobs for rural poor, and also delivering agriculture-related information through digital services. This is just to help respond, because I see a number of questions about IFAD's impact in the COVID response, and this is in summary what the RPSF is doing. I thank everybody again. Thank you especially to my IFADs. Most of the technical staff there have OSCs and other pertinent issues they've been attending to. They managed to find time, even though this was concluded at the last minute, delegated by our senior management. Thank you, Francesco, for facilitating. Thank you, Actuar. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Joanna. And Miguel, again, we count on you, soliciting your support to convey our message to the highest authorities in government, and Paulo, who's been a lead player in this. Vanessa, thank you very much for being behind the scene and facilitating everything. We look forward to more of such exchanges, hoping that, as Paulo said, this will be just one step towards strengthening collaboration with Portugal in the CPLP link liaison to the EU and, of course, and to most of these international donor organizations. Thank you again.
Thank you, obrigada. Fiquem bem. Stay well and see you soon, I hope. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Obrigado.
Obrigado. Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.